Hey, welcome back to Shannon's Plants Planting Time. How are you today? Today, I thought about my last watering video. My dog is barking, excuse me. It was on tips on how to water your plants, and I think it came out a couple of days ago. And I thought about it, and I did some more research on watering, and I found a really good video that I want to share kind of the gist of that video with you because I think it was very helpful. And I found it in a blog, I guess. It was in there, and I don't know if it's easily accessible on YouTube, so we'll just kind of go through the gist of what was said in that video because I found that it would have been very helpful to me as a beginner if I would have had the knowledge of that video. So we're going to start now about breaking down watering plants into even simpler terms than what I did in my last video. So one of the number one questions I always get when I give a plant to someone or do a plant trade or whatever, one of the biggest top questions I get is how often do I water this plant? And generally I tell them how often I water the plant. Well, I've come to figure out that not only I really am not benefiting that person if I tell them how I do it. And let me tell you why. Because you can't water on a schedule, and the conditions in my house are not the same as the conditions in your house. And so when somebody says, how often do I water a plant, and you give them an answer like every 2 weeks, that's wrong. Now, it might be like, I do it every 2 weeks, but you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. I might give them something to go on, but really, that answer is just wrong. So, watering depends on the type of media that the plant is in, the pot type, the amount of light the plant is getting, the amount of humidity, the temperature that the plant is placed in, the size of the pot, the type of the pot, the size of the plant, and of course the type of the plant. So basically, you cannot water on a schedule or tell somebody to water on a schedule because these variables change from house to house. So, house plants can be grouped basically into 3 categories when it comes to watering. The first category is plants who like it wet. And these are plants like caladiums, sundew, butterworts, pitcher plants, baby's tears, things like that. And these plants like to stay wet constantly. And you will water these plants when just the surface of the soil is dry. I have butterworts, caladium, pitcher plants. My baby's tears bit the bucket because obviously I wasn't watering it enough. And anyway, I know with my butterwort and my pitcher plants, they like to sit in a vessel of water at all times. My caladium like a lot of water. In fact, they're not doing very well right now because I have not been keeping up with watering. They are back there on that macrame hanger, and you can't even see them because they are so small because they have died back because I have dropped out on the watering. The second category, which most plants fall into, is semi. And these are most tropical indoor plants. They like to dry out at least until the top inch is dry, some a couple of inches, and the middle should never be completely dry. And you need, if you're unsure about watering these plants, you need to wait a day, because waiting a day won't hurt most plants. The third category that you can group plants into about watering is those who like it in dry conditions. So we'll call them dry. And these are cacti, succulents, and the soil can actually dry out completely. Now, some people group orchids into this category, and I guess I would agree with that, but let me tell you about those variables that we were talking about. My cacti and succulents are in regular potting soil. Well, my version of potting soil, which I will link again in the description of how I do my potting soil. However, my orchids are either in orchid bark or sphagnum moss, or a combination, or some perlite. But anyway, my cacti and succulents I rarely ever water, and my orchids I water every 3 days, although those are considered the dry category. And that is because of the difference of media that they are in. And I hope I'm making sense there. I have a Vanda orchid that is not in any media whatsoever, and I have to water it twice a day, even though that would be grouped into the dry category. So you have to look at the variables, and those variables again are the type of media, the type of pot, the amount of light, the amount of humidity, the temperature that the plant is in, the size of the pot, the size of the plant, and the type of the plant. So anyway, the saying that too much water kills houseplants is completely false. It is the frequency that you water plants that actually kills them. Let me give you an example. I can give the recommended amount that orchids from this grocery store come with, ice cube every day. It doesn't come from the grocery store like that. I'm making this up. If it said water it with a half a cup every day, then that would probably kill the plant. I was going to say cat. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, so a half a cup each day would probably kill the plant. However, if I watered with 5 cups one day and allowed the plant to dry out some, the top couple inches, and then watered it with 5 cups again, and however amount of long it takes to make that plant dry out, then you can see that that would not kill the plant. So it is the frequency that you water the plant that kills the plant. So now you might be asking, well, how dry is my soil? Well, this is the way you determine that, and in my last video I suggested a moisture meter for beginners. I might take that back. It did help me in the beginning, but moisture meters can break, the battery can go bad, they can be inaccurate. So one of the best ways I think to learn to determine the dryness of your soil is to use your finger. And that is because it will never break on you. So you can determine if it's a wet category plant and that top layer of just the surface is dry, then it's time to water. If it's in the semi group, remember those plants still like to dry out a little bit, or top couple of inches. If you stick your finger in and you feel those top couple of inches are dry, then it's time to water. If the plant is in the dry category, then you stick your finger in. If you feel any moisture at all, it's not time to water. So, that is the best way to determine how dry your soil is. Another thing you can do is learn the weight of your pot. So each time you go to water, I suggest you pick up your pot with your plant in it and learn the weight of your pot, and this will also help you determine how dry your soil is. Now, remember, if that plant grows or you repot that plant into a different pot, then you gotta start all over. Because terracotta is a lot heavier than plastic. So, just remember that. Anyway, how much do you water your plant? Well, you water it thoroughly. You water it, and I said this in the last video, until water is thoroughly running out the drainage holes, which are important, especially for beginners. I'm not saying you cannot have a plant in a pot with no drainage holes, especially if you're an experienced plant hobbyist or whatever, but when you're a beginner, you probably or most definitely need drainage holes. So anyway, you water until water is coming out of those drainage holes, and then it is even suggested that you might run one more flush through to flush out any buildup of fertilizers or salts or minerals, anything like that. And then it is suggested that if it is time to fertilize, that you fertilize after you have watered the plant thoroughly. So, anyway, I already went over all beginners should use pots with drainage holes. So, next video we are going to talk about everybody's most unfavorite topic, probably fertilization. Because with water comes fertilization, and I want you to remember one thing going into the next video, that when you fertilize a plant, you're actually not fertilizing the plant, but you fertilize the soil that the plant is in, and that plant uptakes what it needs from that soil through watering, and thus making it available to the roots, and it takes up what it needs. And that's why watering, I want to go over watering so intently before we talk about fertilization, because without knowing how to water your plants, you will not know how to fertilize them. If I talk about it, to no end. Which, looking into fertilization, it's going to take a lot more than I thought to talk about it, because it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was, but we're going to make it easy. So anyway, I just wanted to talk more about watering your plants, because I was so flabbergasted by it when I first started, and it was the number one killer of my plants. When I first got them, I watered them to their death, and I watered a lot of them to their death. So anyway, I hope this video was beneficial to you. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. For those of you who are experienced plant people, I'm sure this video was probably very boring to you. But anyway, next we're going to talk about fertilization, and it'll probably take a couple of videos. Please follow me on Instagram at ShannahCollier26. We are doing a Hoya giveaway for 2 people. So anyway, please tune into that, follow the rules, and enter the giveaway. And other than that, I hope to see you in the next houseplant video, which will be all about fertilization. So I'll see you then. Bye.